So there's two topics in there, and they're both things I added in a little bit ago, and they're both upgrade related, and they're from so Paul Kuzner, if you guys know him, is being on like a large scale cluster, doing some testing for us, kind of like the Puzzy experiment, but it's actually I think larger than that. And one of the things he's trying to test is the upgrade procedure. And so both these points are things sort of related to that. Some decisions we have to make to maybe optimize the upgrade procedure for some larger clusters. So I'll start explaining the first one. So the OSDs have a dependency of the mon map, which normally that's good. You know, we want that to do that, but it causes an issue during the upgrade, where after you upgrade the monitors, all the OSDs now need to be reconfigured because the mon map changes. And that's if you have like a lot of OSDs, like in this case it was like 3,900 OSDs. It really slows everything down because it's just sitting there reconfiguring OSDs for like over an hour, and then that time it doesn't give you any updates on the upgrade or what's going on there. So it's like a bad user experience for that. It also just generally slows everything down, probably more than it needs to. So I guess the question here would be, I guess what we want to do about it. The one idea I have listed under there is that maybe we could just push it off until the upgrade's over. I'd have to look into it a bit more, but I'm thinking that maybe if we do that, like it wouldn't do anything bad. If, like the OCs didn't get the new mon map immediately, we were able to just upgrade them all first. Because I think when we upgrade them, they will get the new mon map anyway. There would just be like a brief period while we're doing the crash demons, where they would not have they wouldn't have the new mon map.
So I'll admit to knowing very little about this topic, but what are the downsides? You know, if we kind of make a list of what are the downsides of not doing this versus doing it or doing it some other way, it might help just make the decision for us.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was trying to figure out. I mean, this topic just sort of came up last night, um, and I don't see a serious downside. I guess that's kind of why I was asking in here. I'm not sure if anyone in here would know of a downside or if there even is one to not having the mon map, like the newer mon map figured for the OSDs for a little bit longer. They are going to get the new one anyway when we upgrade them, which should just be like in between. So the only time period where they wouldn't have it is basically in between when we upgrade the monitors and we upgrade the OSDs, which is just the crash upgrade, I think.
All right.
And instead, what we're doing is we're just going through and reconfiguring all of them immediately, just so that we can then later redeploy them all again when we upgrade them. So it does feel like it feels like a bit of a time waste, and as I said, it's a bad user experience because the upgrade status or anything doesn't show any of this happening.
Yeah. So if everything happens quickly, I think your intuition is probably correct. Concern I have is say that it is taking a long time for some reason. OSD-X gets upgraded on Tuesday, but it isn't until Wednesday that OSD-Y gets upgraded. So, like, imagine if the time scale was stretched out. If it's still not a problem, then I think your idea sounds great. The other thing I would say is just maybe ping someone on the OSD development side to double check.
Yeah, I thought about being like Nia core team and asking them what the danger is, and also maybe looking at the way Ansible did their upgrades because I think they did it. They just upgraded individual roles one at a time. And so obviously in that case, then if the monitors change, they wouldn't necessarily have all the OSDs immediately being reconfigured or anything. They would just then upgrade the OSDs one roll at a time. So I think it actually would be sort of similar to what they were doing there, but I do want to check it with Nia. But I just wanted to bring it up here first, see if anybody had anything, just because it is, I guess, a change to the way our reconfiguring system is going to work and the upgrade's going to work. Kind of a big deal, but I think overall it would be a positive change. Just want to collect people's thoughts if they have any. All right.
Yeah, I have nothing to add to,
Yeah.
my kind of devil's advocate questions there.
All right. In that case, I guess we'll just go forward with that. I'll see if I can get that stuff sort of working. Um, and the second topic is also an upgrade topic. It's related, pretty much the same thing. Now this one's for more granular upgrades, and this is also an issue for um, like larger clusters. Essentially, if you have like somebody who has a really huge cluster, they may not like the idea of I'm just going to like set this command up and then it just runs for like 2 days or something. So some people have a desire to sort of have the upgrades be maybe by host or by like daemon type or something, and that way they can just upgrade a few of the daemons at a time, make sure everything's working okay
Hmm.
before they keep going. Um, it would be a step away from the way our currently we do our upgrades because right now we just do them all at once, and there's a bunch of things we'd have to be really careful about doing that. Um, I guess the topic I had sort of for here is, I guess if we're going to do this sort of granular stuff and what level we want to do it. Um, so like the options that we sort of have are, and we can combine them as well, is you do it by daemon type, which is sort of similar to how that grid already works, which is like you just do the managers and the monitors and stuff. We could just say like you can provide just one of those types and we'll do it. The one thing we have to be careful about doing something like that is we still have to enforce the ordering. We also want the managers before the monitors. Like we can say like you can provide the command saying just do the managers, just do the monitors, but if you haven't done like earlier types first, we're gonna probably block it. I think we have to do that. The other options are by host. So say maybe you want to only upgrade the managers, and you also only want to upgrade the manager on like this host. I guess for managers doesn't make much sense because it's just one of
Yeah.
them probably, but maybe only the OSDs on one host or something.
Yeah, well, it makes sense too because you might say you have your cluster split up by like rack or something, and you're like, just organizationally, like on Monday I'm going to do rack A, Tuesday I'm going to do rack B or something like that.
Yeah.
The question I had when I read the pad originally, right before the meeting, I was curious is like say you're running the command today, you were talking, the bullet says something like, this long running command might take days. And the funny thing that popped into my head was some tooling like I've used like RHPKG. I've seen some stuff from the Pulp project where if your command line command is running and say your SSH gets connected or you Control C, is there like a reattach where you can actually kind of reattach to what like the server might be doing, or is most of the logic in the command? Because as a kind of a phase one to this, you could kind of make the upgrade process like resumable or reattachable before even needing to like break it up into phases. I hope this makes sense.
You talk about like sort of doing it synchronously and letting them like run it for a bit and see what's happening and then stop it.
Uh, yeah, that's one way. I was thinking more like you were just saying like already today the command sort of has phases. If you knew like you were in phase A, I don't know if the logic is kept inside the manager itself or if it's more in the command line tool you're running. Say it's in the server and the command line command was disconnected. If you could say reconnect to the server and continue polling the status of the upgrade, you'd know, oh, okay, it's in phase A, it's doing Mons or whatever. Oh, it's phase B, it's doing OSDs, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So
And
this is
that way
more of
you
a
then have the same state you could use for the ordering enforcement you were just talking about.
So most
so
of
this
it's
is like
maintained
a
in the
oh,
it's
go
maintained
ahead.
in the manager. So I think that's like a pause resume on the upgrade, is what John's describing, which we already have.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a pause. It's just that it's kind of hard to use it properly because you have to like go watch the logs to see what it's doing, and then like you'd have to like stop it at the exact moment it redeploys like the last of this type or something.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Yeah, so like creating like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like phases for each upgrade step. You could say, okay, we're in phase A. Um, when phase A is complete, then you can move on to phase B. But if you're, whatever's driving the process at the say user level says, "Oh, I'm still in phase A. I can't push the system into phase B yet." Um, Again, I'm kind of speculating because I don't know enough about the architecture of the system, but I'm doing a poor job, I think, but I'm trying to share a user experience from some other things that I've seen, which are pretty nice, where you can kind of
normally
get back in.
Normally in upgrade process, I expect that in a large cluster, the phase that takes most of the time is the upgrades, because normally monitors and managers, you only have a few of them. It's a quick operation, but upgrading those Ds, that is the longest operation. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the slowest one.
So I mean, from the point of view of user experience, maybe like it makes more sense to give them more control on this phase, this specific phase, because it's the most time consuming.
Yeah, I think that's what we were kind of hoping for with the host, sort of being able to do it by host, is that you can just upgrade all the OSCs in one host if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But we still need to enforce that by type, so the ordering matters. So we have to be cognizant of the migrations that are occurring in the manager. So you have to do one complete service on all of the hosts before you can progress.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is if we did do this, we would have to make sure that all of the daemons of the previous types are upgraded first, and then we say, all right, it's okay to do this. So you know, like right now, the way the upgrade works, like if it like leaves the function, it comes back and it checks like the managers and mons again, and then it like eventually gets to the right daemon type that it needs to upgrade. It would kind of work like that, but essentially we would just stop at the whatever one they specified, and if there's any previous ones that need to get upgraded, we just immediately like back out, tell them.
Yeah.
So like normally in a cluster, we normally have several different services running, for example, NFS or RGW, and then in their line we have other daemons giving service to these services. It's a bit redundant. So do you mean right now we are upgrading at service level, or we are doing it at daemons level?
We do it one daemon at a time, but it's by daemon type, so like all the managers and all the monitors and all the crash daemons, etc. So like say if you have multiple services specifying your OSDs, like that part isn't really brought into it at all. We're still going to do all the OSDs. But yeah, so it's really just by type rather than the actual service like underlying that. So say you had a bunch of RGWs that were in different services, we would just get to a point where like, all right, we're going to upgrade RGWs now. It wouldn't matter which service they're in. Their RGWs are going to get upgraded.
We don't care about the service. We just do it at the daemon level, and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Adam, remind me, is there any parallelization that's occurring here? Or is this, I think it's sequentially, one daemon at a time. We don't
Just for OSDs.
For OSDs, yeah, because we don't.
Sage implemented a thing that does the check okay to stop, and it just tries to add as many of them as possible to it, and then once it maxes out, it just upgrades all of them in parallel.
Got it. Okay, because that might be the other problem by doing it per host. They may actually be slower because of the failure domain. You may only be able to stop one OSD at a time per host.
Yeah, I mean it could be slower, but I mean when we're doing like I don't expect doing it by host to ever make it faster. It's really like what like the aim is. I think the aim is just like people feel a bit better about it. They're like, I can just upgrade the daemons on this host, and like that gets done maybe in like 20 minutes rather than running one command that just sits there for like a day. So I don't think it would ever speed it up, even if we had it like somehow perfectly in parallel, so we could do like all the OSDs on this host at once or something.
Yeah, I think it's a latency versus throughput kind of thing. You feel like you're getting feedback. The perceived latency is better.
Yeah, it'll always slow down the throughput, because I mean our command that just does everything is always going to be at least as fast, if not faster, than whatever else we can do. It's just that it's a bit more responsive, I guess. Basically what John was saying, the latency goes down. That's desirable for some people doing upgrades.
Mhm.
Um, yes, I mean that's basically the idea of it. Is just we were seeing if we do that. Basically, like John was saying, to decrease the latency. So you could just say I want to upgrade just the OSDs on this host, and you can see that completes, and you can just go on to the next one. Um, it's a bit less intimidating because the problem is, I guess, what Paul was just worried about is people are going to get a bit jumpy if you give them a huge cluster and then you report like nothing really for a long time. They might run something that they shouldn't be running or something. Whereas if you give them this command that's going to finish in like 10 minutes, like just upgrading, say, like a bunch of OSDs in one host, and even if it is a bit slower overall to do the whole upgrade, as long as that command is returning or finishing fairly quickly, then it could still be an improvement. And if they don't want to use that, they want to just do it as fast as possible, we still leave the option to just do the whole upgrade.
Yeah, people getting jumpy is something I've definitely seen like live. I was at a customer site one time, and it was like, calm down, just wait. And it's tough to make people, patient.
Yeah.
I guess there's also the possibility they want to do this during like periods of downtime. Like they don't want an upgrade running, say, during peak periods.
Yeah, it's like, oh, our maintenance window starts at like 8 p.m. and then runs to, say, 3 a.m. And then you don't really want a lot of churn happening, so you can split up your maintenance window over a couple of days.
Right. Yeah.
And this is already achievable by the pause command, I guess, or it isn't. You can pause the upgrade and continue using the cluster, or this is not possible.
Can you say that again, Redo? I couldn't.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was asking if this behavior is already achievable by using the pause command. You can pause the upgrade anytime, continue using the cluster, and then like in the next maintenance window, so you resume the upgrade, and it continues.
Yeah, I guess if you only were worried about just having it not doing anything, any upgrade while it's like in your downtime and you want to just start again later, you could do that with the pause. In particular, I still think it could be desirable for people to just say like, I want to upgrade like this thing today and like just let that go and then do something else tomorrow rather than just having it pause at some random point.
Yeah. The only other wrinkle I would add to that is, again, this is just partly my own ignorance, so feel free to inform me. Like, how many versions different are people allowed to, upgrade across, or how many different versions of stuff running in one single cluster can we tolerate? So that's something we will probably want to keep in mind, especially if we're creating a wider window. So if we know that, 16.5 and 16.6 stuff work perfectly well together, great. But if we start to worry that, the upgrade's taken so long that now 16.7 is out, I'm not kind of lost my train of thought, but I think you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be a problem. I mean, it's going to be like, if you're on a big cluster anyway, it's going to be pretty slow. It's going to be like, I said, like a whole day maybe where you just have some of your OSDs are on the new version, some of them aren't.
Right.
And as long as they're upgrading to a stable tag, which I hope they would if they're on a huge cluster, I don't think there's any worry of like the image changing or something. Like there's no problem with like, oh, they have this one's on 16.7 and like something else comes out. That shouldn't affect anything. So not as much worried about that.
Yeah, I've seen clusters where people these were Kubernetes clusters, though they were using like the latest tag, so they could accidentally consume the versions that they weren't really wanting to necessarily opt into. They were just kind of opting into it by default. Eventually, the cluster, Ansible, OpenShift stuff changed that behavior so the latest tags weren't being used. But there were people in the field that had them for a long time.
Yeah. I'd hope people upgrading their big clusters are using stable tags and stuff. We do offer much stable tags.
Well, so that's exactly why we convert the latest tag into a digest, and then we enforce that
Great.
digest across all of the container nodes. And so until everybody's consistent, they can't, you know.
This is done at the beginning of the upgrade, right?
Right.
So we get the latest or whatever version, we calculate the hash code, and we use it everywhere, so we don't get a mess of versions.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's the very first thing. We pull the latest image, compute a digest, and then we set that in the config store and enforce that across all of the daemons during upgrade.
And I think it was implemented specifically for people using latest tags as well.
Does it make sense right now? Does it make sense to provide the upgrade like at service level instead of upgrading everything?
That was actually one of the questions. We weren't really talking about that part of it, but that was actually one of the things. Because we were talking before about like, by daemon type, by host, whatever. One of the things Paul asked about was if we should do it by service. Because some people could, maybe they specify their own services for like how they want to organize like their OSD or something. Maybe they want to upgrade just the ones in that service. There could be a world where people want to do that.
So I encountered something kind of like this where I wanted to update Prometheus just for a security fix, but I didn't want to upgrade the entire cluster to do this, which forced me to set a config key and then do a redeploy that instance instead. We got to get around that.
Okay.
And I guess if we do it like per service, we can get like some stats at the beginning of the impacted, especially number of OSDs that will be upgraded. So the more the number of OSDs, the longest it will take. So this way you can provide some kind of feedback to the user, that some kind of dry run to say, okay, if you upgrade this service, so be aware that you will be upgrading this number of OSDs.
And that is an idea. I don't think we have anything like that, a dry run for upgrade, where we're like, this is how many demons will get upgraded if you do this.
Yeah.
Could be something interesting. As sort of like a tangential, maybe useful thing.
The other thing to keep in mind is we build everything in the same container. So like Ganesha, iSCSI, everything's all the exact same container image and digest. So we're still restricted by that order, where the managers must come first. You can't say upgrade Ganesha by itself. It wouldn't make sense.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it's not everything though. Some of the stuff around monitoring stack doesn't come from Ceph container, right?
Yeah, those are different. We hard code the version for those inside the manager.
If we are going to do like this, I know obviously we're saying we're definitely going to, for Ceph type daemons, enforce this ordering because it's super important to make sure nothing breaks. But for like, do we say monitoring stack daemons, should we make like a special case? Like if you say, I want to upgrade Prometheus, like we'll just do that for you. Sort of a side topic, almost not really super important in terms of the large scale upgrades, but.
Yeah, I mean, plus you've got the whole generic container service feature.
Yeah. So like a nice to have feature.
Yeah.
Right now you would have to do what Mike said. You have to somehow change the container image and then just do a redeploy. It isn't too bad. But I guess it could be maybe a use for upgrade.
I think the complexity is too high for that narrow use case right now. Maybe we just document that case. It seems like for this thing, it's mostly useful for OSD types, but not really any of the other services. It's OSDs that are really the problem. We just want to target a host.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could certainly just start there, not support it anywhere else, and then if there was a use case in the future, try and extend it.
Yeah, because we definitely want to keep the scheduling as simple as possible here.
Okay. So when we wait to the OSD part, we want to be able to limit it by host or service. How do you want to get to that point? Like say if you want to do an upgrade, you want to get to that point where you have the OSDs and you're doing that?
In a normal, probably different customers have different configuration, but in general, from your experience, do you manage to have like a lot of OSDs per host, or you may have different configuration where you have like few OSDs in one host, a lot of them in other hosts? I mean, does it make sense to do it per host, or like per batch OSTs batch, like 10 OSTs or 100 or whatever?
I'm not sure about just limiting by number because I don't know like what the ordering is going to be on that. Like I don't think we guarantee anything in terms of ordering. So like yours, like I'm going to limit just upgrade 100 OSDs. We could, but I'm not sure. It just seems odd because you don't know which OSDs are going to get upgraded. You're just like upgrade a random 100 OSDs, not the other ones. It feels a bit weird to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted to just upgrade a single OSD, technically you can do that with the daemon redeploy.
I think a lot of this comes back to what John had mentioned, where you want to upgrade a rack and then you want to validate and confirm that everything's sane before you progress to the next step or the next rack. It's really part of the desire here.
Do we think that host and service are enough to specify those?
I think so. Yeah, and then we can use we persist the migration, last migration. So if you were to do this, say, like on a really small service, like NFS, it wouldn't really make a ton of sense. But for OSDs, this would.
Yeah. Because the way I was kind of thinking about this, I guess where we've gotten to now, is you kind of let all three of them almost. And then you just like if you really want to do it granularly, you just do the first three types, like the manager and monitor crash by the type. When you get to the OSDs, maybe you start going into more detail. You're like, I want to do this one by host, I want to do this one by service or something.
Yeah.
Yep. I think in the upgrade step, we just have a bunch of validations to ensure the migration order actually is sane. Stuff like this. But when we reach, like, say, this step, like they start an upgrade on OSDs for host 3, when that completes, then we just simply pause the upgrade. Let them resume it somehow in the next upgrade step.
Yeah, this is a topic I guess we haven't gone into yet, is what do we do when we hit this and it's not actually the full upgrade? Do we just totally kill the upgrade? Do we stop it? Or do we just put it in a pause state?
Right now we don't have any kind of rollback mechanism, so if it fails, we just stop that upgrade.
I guess you could downgrade afterwards. I'm not sure. I think that should be fine regardless of if we pause it or if we stop it. Because if it's paused, you can just technically stop it if something went wrong.
I think, as far as I remember, from the code sessions with Sebastian, he mentioned that downgrading could be very weird, especially if you are changing the monitor or stuff in the monitor. It end up in some very bad state in the cluster. That's why we don't support right now downgrades.
Yeah, usually a lot of software, downgrade isn't supported or it's very, very risky because you don't know what new metadata, say, got written into your store or whatever. It usually helps if you're like a developer can do it because I know that no metadata changes happened in, release 13.4.
Yeah.
I think this is also one of the things that's nice about having the more granular upgrade is if you upgrade like one thing and you're like, this didn't work, at least you have a smaller issue than if you just let it go and it was putting bad versions and everything.
I think the one thing we need to be careful of is that right now we have a status, like through Ceph status, about the upgrade status, things like this. We don't want them to do a partial upgrade and then forget about it. Like we need some way to nag them, but it's not complete.
Yeah, I guess we just, the progress bar would have to get adjusted a bunch. Yeah, I guess we could clear it when we get to the point where we like did what they wanted to do. Like if they want to just do like their monitors, we clear it after they're done. The bar will look weird though, because like we'd have to format it to say like, oh, we're only going to upgrade this many demons. But we could probably work around all that stuff, I think. An upgrade status wouldn't be too bad if we like know exactly what's going to get upgraded.
Right. That's what I was trying to imply with that UX talk earlier on, where it's like, what do you do? What's the workflow look like? Can you just, okay, there's a status command. Great. We run it and it gives you some sort of status report about the overall upgrade. But if you've only asked for a partial, what does that look like? Does it even make sense to have a progress bar? Or should you have, just bullet points? I've done, mons and managers, but nothing else.
Yeah. So right now, what the ORCH upgrade status has, it tells you which image you're going to. It'll tell you which services are fully upgraded. Like if all of the managers are on the right version, it'll say like the manager's service is done. It'll tell you how many of the total number of Ceph daemons have been upgraded. And if there's like a status or there's like a generic message field that like usually it'll say like, oh, we're pulling this image on this host right now, or we're currently upgrading like this type of daemon or something. So if we do this, we'd have to adjust that to probably like say for like the number of Ceph daemons it says it's going to upgrade, we'd have to like change the that number to say we're only going to upgrade like this many of them or many of this type, or just be a bit more specific there. There would have to be some changes to the upgrade status. And I guess the progress bar as well. We just want to make the progress bar a bit smaller, so it looks like it's more done. If like you're only upgrading 5 daemons with this, then it shouldn't look like it's 1% done after you've done 4 of them. It would be if you did the whole cluster. All right. One thing I guess I don't know if we analyze this. Go back to it. So if we do reach this point where we have finished what they told us to do, like say they just said they already did the managers, they just want the monitors done. There's like 5 of them, and we do all 5 of them. Do we just pause everything, or do we fully say we're going to stop the upgrade and you have to start a new one, basically to? Because I feel like the upgrade start command is where we're going to add these arguments in to like say like specify the daemon type for the host or something. I don't know if it's better just to stop the upgrade, or if we should pause it, leave it there, just let them. I don't know what a resume would mean. That's the one thing I would be worried about is if you just did the monitors, we have to then add to resume, basically say like what daemon type do I want to do now or something. I feel like it might be better to keep it all in start and then just stop the upgrades when we reach whatever it is they told us to upgrade. My initial thought anyway. Anyone else thinks?
That's going to be simpler to implement because on resume it's going to be awful confusing. You could pause it, resume with a different type, or pause again, resume with a different type. Kind of weird.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Do we have any mechanism right now? Like imagine I have cluster. Accidentally, I powered up a node which has like old version of code of images in it. So how would it detect this case, and do we upgrade the images automatically in this case or not?
You're saying you have an old version of an image downloaded on the host?
Yeah, for example, you switch off some host with which has old code version, and then you upgrade cluster and you switch on this host. What happens in this case?
Right now, the upgrade actually ends up failing when if you get to hit an offline host. That is a good question as well. I think it's actually a totally different topic than even what we're on. It's just what we should do, how we should handle offline hosts during upgrades. We block the whole upgrade and say you have to have all the hosts online because it's sort of dangerous. And then again, one could go offline in the middle of the upgrade. I think right now, if you were to say upgrade the other host and then you add this host back to the cluster, if the upgrade was still going on, it would just start upgrading the daemons on that host. If the upgrade's already over, they won't do anything. You have to run the upgrade again to tell it to go upgrade that host.
So you will just see some error somewhere indicating that there is some form mismatch on this host.
Yeah, I think it will point out that there's a version mismatch. At least the Ceph daemons, I think that you do get a warning in the Ceph status about this. Yeah, I guess we should probably put that as a health warning. If it is not an upgrade in progress and we have Ceph daemons of different types, that probably should raise a health warning.
Yeah.
I don't think we checked that explicitly right now. I probably should. All right, so I guess we can stop the upgrade. So I guess sort of finalize here. We said we were good with doing it by the daemon type, the host, and the service type. We probably want all three for making it easier for OSD service, get exactly what you want. Whenever we hit that point, we just stop the upgrade and we'll let them start it again with the new arguments whenever they want to upgrade now. And we have to make sure we strictly enforce the ordering so that it's always manager, mon, whatever. The migration order, as Mike, I think, posted. And there's another thing. Oh, it was. Oh yeah, and we want to make maybe like a dry run command or something for a bit more transparency, so you know exactly what an upgrade is going to do. So that if you just have to upgrade OSD with a certain service type, and you do a dry run, we'll say like these are the daemons in that service that are not on the right version. This is what's going to happen. All right. Does that sound good to everyone, or is there still something I'm missing for you to discuss about that?
Out of curiosity, how does Rook handle this type of scenario? Is there any insight you can give us on that point?
I don't really remember how Rook does their upgrading, honestly. There's been a whole thing about like Rook with Manager Rook and stuff, so I don't even think if there is an upgrade thing in Manager Rook, they're probably using it right now. I don't know. I'd have to ask Travis, I guess. They're doing there. Actually, Blaine is in here. He knows.
Yeah, Rook's upgrades are handled pretty much on the daemon level. With the OSDs, we do check the we get the like batch of OSDs that we can update in parallel. But that's kind of the only real crazy thing we do. Otherwise, we know that we need to upgrade if we see that like there's like a cluster versions command that we issue that gives us like JSON output of like what versions of what daemons are running in the cluster. And if those are not all running the same ported version, then we have upgrade to do. It's how we detect that we need to upgrade.
All right. What's kind of like the actual user interface of doing that? Do you just tell it like I want to do an upgrade now, and it just goes and figures everything out?
Yeah, I mean, effectively, it's just to update the Ceph image in the Kubernetes manifest for the Ceph cluster, and it just goes and does it.
Okay. That sounds kind of similar to what we have right now for our Ceph PDM upgrade, where we're just specify an image we want to be the new image, and then it just goes and does everything. So we probably actually are already right now sort of in line with Rook, but I think for some big clusters, it would still be nice to have granular stuff.
Yeah, we do get asked about like granular stuff occasionally, but mostly we're just like, that's so much more complexity that it is usually not worth it to tackle like at this point.
All right. That's good. Okay. Thanks, Blaine. Is there anything else? Or big points you think we're missing here? All right. Well, I feel like we've kind of come to an agreement on what has to happen there. I'll make sure to update the other pad and stuff we said after. And that was the last topic I had in there. So does anyone have any other topics you want to bring up this week? No. Okay, in that case, I will see you guys all next week.